will be in Luke chapter 15 today, Luke chapter 15, starting in verse 11. Going a two-part series here as we look into the role of the Father, but at the same time for each one of us and where we fit within that. So we're going to talk today about responsibility and what responsibility means, and we're going to look at it once again two different ways through the same story, but we're only going to tell the first half of the story today. This past Friday, my daughter was playing in, they call this it's a shootout, and it used to be that sports, but when you had a summer break as a student, you had a summer break. And nowadays, you don't really have a summer break. The teachers make you read 3 books and write reports, and if you're in a sport now that goes in the fall or in the winter, it's almost year-round. They have certain days that the state says you can do this, you can do that, you can do it for 30 days, or whatever it might be. So one of the things they have is this thing called shootouts for the different basketball teams. So the boys go to one area and the girls go to another area. So we got to go to Cleveland to have this shootout against these 4 teams, and I'd never even heard of some of the schools we had gone to play against. But it's a great thing for them to get out, get active, and then also to learn from the coaches and, to come together as a team. So we go up, and as we would have it, some of our girls also play softball, so they were going to leave after 2 of the games. There was 4 basketball games, and they were going to leave after 2 of them to go back to play softball. And so one of the moms was coming along. She was going to take 2 of the softball players to go. Well, the game got canceled, so she ended up having to stay, and when we got between the 2 games, we had to go from one school to the next school, and we walked out into the parking lot, and it's me, the mom, and the 3 girls, her daughter and my daughter, and we're walking out, and she looks over where her car is, and the girls are kind of following her, which that's fine, because I brought them up so they can go together, and she had brought one of the cool Jeeps, not the new fancy kind that has all the stuff on it, the cool ones that climb over rocks and all that kind of stuff. It's a Jeep Wrangler, I think that's what they are, and I mean, it's kind of it's a manly guy's car. And she drove it up, and I thought, oh, that's really cool, she drove this up. Well, the girls kind of started walking this way, and then they saw that, and then they turned course, and they're like, yeah, we'll hop in my car, because, my car has air conditioning, and, it's not 6 feet off the ground, and all those other kind of things that I think are cool about a car. And she's like, okay, go ahead and hop with them. And I said, hey, do you want to swap cars? Because let me give you a little bit of history on me with cars, all right? Listen, any guy here would be saying this right now, so they're all feeling for me. My first car I ever got was a Honda Accord. All right, it's in the Bible. And the disciples came in one Accord. Right, so the first car I made, right? So, very responsible, college age, good mileage, drive back and forth to home when I had to, that kind of stuff. When we got married, we got kind of a family sedan. Deanna actually had a sports car. Not really a sports car. If you guys remember what a Geo Prism is, they call it a sports car, but it was a tin can on wheels that could fall apart at any given time. It looked cool. So when we started having kids, the first thing that you look for is how do you transport those kids? And that's a discussion that you all have. And the easiest way, and I'm just telling especially young guys there that don't have kids yet, the easiest way is in a minivan. Because you think, the SUV that they brought to try to take dads and fathers, you look cool, but you think it'll be a happy medium, and it's not, because the kids can't get in and out, and the easiest thing is a minivan. So I started looking back, and we had a Plymouth Voyager, and we kept it until we couldn't shut the door anymore. It kept kind of bouncing open, and you'd try to shut it and then lock the door as fast as you could so it would stay shut. And then, in my mind, if you shut it harder, then it'll stay shut more, but it didn't. And so we got rid of that, and we traded from that to a Dodge Caravan. My father-in-law got it. He worked at the auction, and this car had the wood paneling on the side, which was like really cool. You know how things cycle back? You're like, oh, that'll come back, that'll come back. Wood paneling, it's not coming back in a car, all right? Nobody wants to drive a log cabin. Am I right? You're like driving down the road. So, but this thing was cool. The reason it was cool is it was one of the first digital cars. It was all leather, and it had all the lights and stuff on it. But my kids, as small as they were, didn't have an airbag yet. So they could sit in the passenger seat, so when you hit something, they can still take their head off the dashboard and still feel cool about it, as opposed to now they have all airbags. So that was our second one. And then we stepped up, because finally we started making, life started kicking in, and we got our bills underway. And so we got a Oldsmobile Silhouette, which was this old thing, and it was the coolest thing ever, because you could push a button and the door would open. And then they had stereo controls on the steering wheel, so I would mess with the kids and pretend that my voice did the things on the radio. I'd go, change song, and I'd hit it with my thumb, and it would change. I'm like, volume up, and I'd hit the volume up, and the kids were like, woo, and like, well, it won't work with you. They tried, and like, it doesn't work works with mine, I have it set that way. And then, now since you live in Green, and some of you guys may remember this, if you're going to live in the Green area, and this goes Green, Coventry, New Franklin, that area, you can't have a minivan unless it's a silver Honda Odyssey. So we took that step, and those were great. Everyone had one. The problem was you would get in the wrong van at times, and you would go to, and you're trying, why is my remote not working? It was because it was someone else's van. So that was our minivan history. So these are my cars pretty much today, because I've got a Honda Accord, 4-door, a Bonneville, Pontiac Bonneville, which is, kind of cool car, but still family. And then it was Goobermobile, after Goobermobile was minivan. And no matter how cool you think you are, there's no way to make a minivan look cool. You can put flames on it, you can put hydraulics on it, you can be bouncing around, the guys pull up to you and they're like, it's still a minivan. Okay, so I've never really had like that cool car. Now, in my defense, I don't need to, because my father-in-law and my brother-in-law have like the coolest cars. Like they've got, some of you know, they have like GTOs, and they've got like Jaguars, and they've got, my favorite is this a Starliner, which is like the coolest. If you don't know what it is, maybe I'll take a picture and I'll bring it in. Thunderbirds, Pontiac, old Grand Prix that are convertibles. I mean, all like these cool cars. So their car list is way more like a guy car list as opposed to my car list, which is like minivan. So when I'm out here in the parking lot with my friend, and I'm like, hey, I'll drive that, and if you want to drive this, and she's like, cool, we'll swap cars. I'm like, I'm walking to this thing, and I'm like, I've never driven. This is like probably like the coolest car, like Jeep kind of thing I'm going to get to drive because of my minivan history, right? So I go to get into this, but she says to me, oh, hey, it's a little bit muddy because, my husband took it off-roading. And I'm like, oh, that sounds so cool. And I'm like, the guys don't care about mud. They don't care about any of that stuff. Like, if I were to get in and, like, some of that mud would get on me and I'd walk back in the coach like, hey, you got some mud in me. I'd be like, I just drove this car that went off-road. That's how guys look at everything. Girls are like, just let me be comfortable, good to go. So I get to drive this. It's only 4 miles, but I got to drive this thing for 4 miles over to this other place. And I'm like, man, that was like the coolest drive. Never been to one. It was like really nice. So when I get out of the car, I look at her, and she was happy driving my family sedan that had the air conditioning, and I was happy in this big old car. And so I realized there's an opportunity here, right? And so I just threw it out there, and she could have said no. And I said, when we drive home from Cleveland, if you want, you can drive that car, and I'll drive, your car. This cool Jeep that's got the cool wheels, and we'll climb over rocks and all this stuff, and went off-roading and all that. That's all I could think of. And she was just like, are you serious? And I'm like, oh, this is going the right way. And I'm like, yeah, I'm serious. And she's like, okay. And then she said something that blew my mind. She goes, here's what we'll do. We'll take the top off, and you can drive it home with the top off. Now, I've got 2 games to coach for basketball, and the girls are out there running around, and all I'm thinking about is, I'm going to drive home in a Jeep Wrangler that's on money with the top off. This is going to be like the best thing ever. Oh, hey, good play. Did you see that? No, I didn't see anything. I'm not paying attention because I'm a guy. But see, we all have different responses to things. And then it's what our ability is to then go and use those abilities with that. Because there was one caveat before I ever got in. She goes, oh, before you get in, can you drive a stick shift? How many people here can drive a stick shift? Cannot drive a stick shift. Okay, listen. Guys especially, if you're a guy and you cannot drive a stick shift, raise your hand. Okay, all 4 of you, you need to learn. 2 of your kids. Because so sad. I took my driver's test in a van with a 3 on the screen. Okay, I was backing that thing up, and I was parking it, and all that kind of stuff. So that's what we learned on, all right? So if you can't drive, you need to, because one day, you might run into someone who has one of these really cool Jeep Wranglers, and they'll be like, oh, can you drive a stick? And you're like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't. I can't do that. And then it's over. And then you have to walk away, you have to go and sit down and realize all I had to do was learn how to drive a stick shift. I could drive a stick shift. So I got to drive this really cool car because of it. But the whole thing was my response, her response. We both had the same abilities. She was excited about driving my family sedan that had the air conditioning and all that stuff because women are a little different when it comes to hair, and that also looked nice. I don't care. I have a baseball hat on and good to go. But I got have to do what a guy would like to do. Now, ladies, if you were offered this, some of you would be like, yeah, it's kind of cool. Others are like, yeah, there's just no way. You know, if you would have offered a Mercedes with air conditioning and all leather, I would drive that. But this Jeep, you know, Wrangler thing that bounces off rocks and all that kind of stuff, yeah, that's not so good. For the guys are like, we're going to do that. See, it's our response, and if you can drive a stick shift, it's our abilities or lack of abilities with every single event that takes place in our life. Now, there's a second part to the story, but I'm not going to tell it to you yet. And here's why I'm not going to tell it to you. There's a story within for each one of us when it comes down to responsibility. And in every role that we have in life, whether we realize it or not, it comes down to responsibility. If you are a husband, you have the responsibility of taking care of your wife. If you are a wife, you have a responsibility of taking care of your husband. If you are a parent, you have a responsibility of taking care of that child. If you're a step-parent, you still have the responsibility of taking care of that child. You knew what you were getting into before you ever got married. When you have grandkids, you don't get to just turn them back in. You have the responsibility of being a grandparent to them. And it could be a mentor, it could be a coach, it could be a teacher, it could be a boss, you could be a manager, whatever role you're in, you have responsibility. I tell this to my kids all the time, listen, you're as rich as you're ever going to be. A couple of them are in college and they see the college invoices and then, you know, what the amount is, and they know what it costs to go to college, and all they can think of is debt, 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 debt. So, staying at home, mom and dad are buying food, mom and dad are cooking food, all of a sudden it's like, that's actually kind of a good thing. And I tell them, you're as rich as you're going to be. Because one day, you went from living in mom and dad's basement, and by the way, after you get in your 20s, this doesn't give you the right to stay in the basement. Okay? Well, that's another message for another day. But while you're going through school, and as you're in full-time school and that kind of stuff, and you're in the basement, you don't have to pay for, and I'm glad you're all sitting down, you don't have a house payment. You don't have the taxes that go with the house payment. You don't have to pay for gas. You don't have to pay for electric. You don't have to pay for cable. You don't have to pay for internet. You don't have to pay for food. You don't even have to cook the food. You don't have to pay for. I just named off 7 things. You literally, for the most part, may have to pay for your gas in your car and maybe your insurance. That's your responsibility. To get along with your mom and dad and to get along with your brothers and sisters. That's pretty much your responsibility. That's your response to every person that you come in contact with and your abilities that God has given you to deal with that. That is what responsibility means. It's 2 words that have been taken together so that in every situation, it's our response to it and the abilities that we have tied to that response. There's so many of you right now that have a circumstance in your life, you're like, I don't really know how to deal with this. And God's sitting up there going, hey, I am your heavenly Father. And today you celebrate Father's Day. Are you bringing this to me? Because really every day should be Father's Day with Him. Because in that circumstance, when you don't have the answers, in that circumstance when you don't know what to do, what is your response? Many times we take it to ourselves when God's just saying, I got this. And maybe your answer might not be immediate, maybe it might not be right away, and maybe it might not be what it is you thought it would be. But somewhere down the road, you're going to have the ability to see that God was in control the whole time. But your response, and my response many times, is to turn to ourselves and to do what we want to do. We have the Heavenly Father is just looking for you and looking for me to turn to Him in every event, in every circumstance, and in every moment. Luke chapter 15 is where we're going to start. This is known as the lost chapter. Not because it was lost and put in later, but because everything that takes place within this chapter, things are lost, and things have to be found. So starting in verse 11, this is known as the parable of the lost son. And you've all heard the term the prodigal son. The prodigal son isn't anywhere in the Bible. Prodigal literally means that they went out and wasted, they went out and they were reckless, they went out and did what they wanted to do, how they wanted to do it. So if you have a prodigal son, they've taken all their stuff, they ran, and they're going to just spend it any way that they want to do it. They don't even care. They're not thinking about anything else. That's what prodigal means. Doesn't mean oldest, doesn't mean youngest, doesn't mean middle child, doesn't mean any of those things. They're just out there being reckless because they're going to do things the way they want to do it. This is really known as that lost son, but you've heard it as the prodigal son. This story, they took a worldwide questionnaire and they asked, what is a story that is short enough that could be told and retold, that you would tell your kids or your grandkids. This story was the #1 story worldwide, because this story has so much meaning to it. Meaning as a parent, meaning as a child, meaning as a grandchild, meaning as a friend. Meaning, there's so much meaning behind it that can be shared with everyone. So this is the parable of the lost son. Jesus spoke in these parables, and he says this. Jesus continued. This is after the lost coin and the lost sheep. There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to the father, "Father, give me my share of the estate." So he divided his property between them. So if there's a younger son and an older son, and for those of you who don't know, whenever there's an inheritance, the oldest son would get 2/3 of the inheritance. So if you had $100, they would take $66.67 to the oldest son, and $33.33 would go to the youngest son. That's just how the culture was. That's how it was divided up. So here's the younger of the 2 sons. And he knows that his dad's got a lot of money, and he wants to not wait for that money. Because the only way to get the money is for the dad to die. He doesn't want to wait for that. So he's probably in his teens, early 20s, whatever it might be. He wants his money, and he wants it now. So it says, the younger one said to his father, "Father, give me my share of the estate. I want my money now." And now the father has a choice. He has a choice to say, listen, the more time down the road, what you have now can grow not, from this much to this much, and you'll have even more. It can grow from this much to this much, and you'll have even more if you wait even longer. The younger son doesn't care. He knows there's this much available, and he wants it, and he wants it now. So he has to respond to it. And he says this, "Father, give me my share of the estate." And this is what the dad did. So he divided the property between them. See, his response was, okay, you're coming to me, and you want everything that you didn't earn, that you didn't put any blood, sweat, and tears in, but all the stuff that I put back, and you want it now. So now it's my opportunity to respond to that. And I have the ability to take whatever is yours and give it to you, or to keep it back. His response was this: that's what you want? Go ahead and take it. And so here's a father doing something that he probably normally would not do. But he has a son that has made the decision that I want my stuff, and I want it now. And so his responsibility, his response, his ability to do so, he gave this to his youngest son. And this is where the story takes a turn. Not long after that, the younger son got together all he had and set off for a distant country. When it says that he had all he had, this was a moment where the youngest son was saying to his father, to his brother, and to his family, "I'm done with you. I'm finished with you. I'm not taking some stuff and leaving some stuff back in case there's a plan B. I'm not keeping a bed in the basement, with a nightstand and, electricity and air conditioning. I'm not doing that kind of stuff. When I go, I'm taking everything. I've got the world figured out. I know everything. Just ask me. And when I leave this family, I am completely done with them." That's what's taking place at this moment. When it says all he had, he was breaking every bond in his life. He was done. And that's happened to people. People that come home and they think everything's fine, and all of a sudden their husband or their wife has moved everything out. And it's just gone. And they never saw it coming. They literally wash their hands of it. And it happens to families all the time. And it's very, very painful. So this is a painful thing that's taking place for the father, for the brother, and for the rest of the family. And the younger son doesn't care. He's rebellious. He's got what is his, and he is heading off. He's not heading to the next town over where he can come back. He's not heading to the next state, which, the state line is a little bit further away. He is going off to a distant country to get away from everyone, because Dad's probably well known. They probably know all about him. No one is going to spy on him. He's going to do his thing, and he's going to do the things he wants to do, how he wants to do it, when he wants to do it. So it says he sets off. With all he had, he set off for a distant country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living. Now, it doesn't define what wild living is, and we don't need to have it defined. We can understand lots of different ways to spend money very unwisely. And you can go through that money very, very quickly. You can get yourself into debt quickly. You can have all kinds of material stuff that looks really good, and then all of a sudden the bills show up. Some of us have been there at times. Where all of a sudden you're like, I don't know how I'm going to pay this. I'm not sure. his jewels, whatever it is that he has, and he is just burning through it and burning through it and burning through it without a care in the world. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in the whole country, and he began to be in need. Now remember, he's in a distant country. Where would he normally turn to? He would normally turn to Dad. Dad, listen, I know you gave me the whole thing, but, there's been a little bit of time since then. Have you put a little more aside for me? Have you put something, kind of in a rainy day fund, and don't you have a little bit of extra cash on the side? And I'll go get it straightened away this time, because I'm just in the next town. He can't do that. He is in complete need. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country who sent him to his fields to feed the pigs. This young man came from a rich family. And this young man has gone so far on his own with everything that he had, and he's lost it all. And he has no way to get word back to his family that he needs help. There is no internet. There is no text message. There is no Instagram or Snapchat or whatever the next latest thing is, or Facebook or any that kind of stuff. He can't just let them know, hey, Mom, Dad, I need this. Or, hey, Mom and Dad, I'm expecting this. He's lost it all. And so now he is feeding the pigs, which is the most demeaning task that he could have. And look what happens to him. He says, he longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating. That means the pigs were eating better than he was. That's how far this guy has fallen. But no one gave him anything. Whose son are you again? Oh, it's this country, like 3 countries over, and my dad's really well off. Where is he? Well, he's not here. So he doesn't have any gold or silver or anything for you? No. And you don't have the ability to send anything away? Yeah, no. Listen, I'm a farmer, and I've got pigs to feed. And they have to eat this slop. And they're going to eat that slop, and you're not getting any of it. You're not getting anything until you have earned enough where you can buy some food. And you're going to have to deal with it, because these are the choices you make. These are because of the responses that you had and how you tied the abilities God gave you to them. And many times when we find ourselves in trouble, it's because our response was about us. And our response was selfish. And our response wasn't about helping anyone along the way. And his response now is, I'm in trouble. And all my abilities, and everyone that knew me, and all of my background, it doesn't matter. I've got myself into the worst place in my life because I lost focus on what God had blessed me with. Next verse, verse 17, he says this. When he came to his senses, all of a sudden that moment happens. We all have that moment where we all of a sudden come to our senses. Either we're major in debt, and we're like, I can't do this anymore. It's killing me. We're in a job that is a dead-end job. There's nowhere for us to go, and we're like, I've just got to cut ties. We're so angry. We're so upset. We're making bad decisions that we need to go to counseling or we need to get professional help. Something makes us come to our senses. And I'll tell you as a dad, one of the greatest things that helps us to come to our senses are children. All of a sudden you have this little baby, and the only thing that they can do is maybe make a noise, open their eyes a little bit, pass gas, pee and poop. That's it. That's all the baby has to do the whole day, and eat. That's their entire agenda. That's all they know. And when you have that baby, you're looking at it, you're like, oh my goodness, and responsibility all of a sudden changes because you realize, I don't know what I'm doing. How am I going to raise this? Where's the instruction manual? We talked about this before. Where's the instruction manual? Where are the lessons? Who's going to help me with this? This is yours. This is your child. And so your response and the ability God gives you now all of a sudden changes from, hey, it's all about me, to it's all about me helping to raise this child in this world, which seems to get worse every single day. So here's this guy, and he came to his senses. Now, here's the sad thing. Some people, when they have that baby for the first time, they look at it, they still don't come to their senses. People still walk away from that. They don't see it as a miracle. Even though 1 million kids are born every day, and the definition of a miracle is 1 in 1 million. So if you're looking at it from a numerical standpoint, this is your miracle that you're holding. And yet people still walk away. Thankfully, many times there's someone else out there that is responsible enough, and they take that responsibility to help to raise that baby or that toddler or that middle schooler or even that high schooler or above. That they step in as a stepchild. So he came to that sense, as we all come to at some point sometime. He said, how many of my father's hired men had food to spare, and here I am starving to death? I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired men. So he's going through this in his mind. He's starving to death. The pigs are eating better than him. He's not even going to be able to get a sandwich or anything until he's earned the money. He's taken all this for granted, all the things that parents have bought, all the places they provided him, all the shelter, all those things. No, he didn't have a boat, he didn't have a plane, he didn't have all those extra great, fantastic things that some people have, but he had what his father provided. And he was safe, and he was in a good environment. And he got to hear from someone that cared for him and loved him. And he got to be with family, he got to be with people that cared and loved him for who he was. So he is going through this in his mind and going, I've messed up completely. I now need to go back to my father. And I need to humble myself completely before my father. And I need to say, man, Dad, I really messed up. See, sometimes coming to our senses, what we don't realize, that's the moment we have with our Heavenly Father. God, I've screwed this up. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of making the choices I'm making. I'm tired of the addiction being before you. I'm tired of being angry. I'm tired of worrying and doubting and being anxious. I'm tired of whatever the circumstance is and how it is I react to it. Just tired. I'm exhausted. I'm beat up. And God's just sitting there going, hey, I'll take responsibility for you. I'll give a response and use my abilities to lift you up. No matter how bad it seems. No matter how big of a struggle you're having. No matter what age you are, what gender you are. I'm here for you as your Heavenly Father. This young man was having this conversation with himself, and he realized the only place that he could go was to a father that was so willing to love him no matter what. And if you're not a believer today, you have to know this. You have a Heavenly Father that is so willing to love you no matter what. But it's your choice, and it's my choice, to come to our senses and to realize I'm at the worst of the worst, I've had the biggest struggle, and I still have a God in heaven that I can call Heavenly Father who loves me. The next verse says this. So he got up and went to his father. I'm done with this. I paid, I got my wages, I got a sandwich, I'm heading back to this distant country. For some people, we've got to save and save and save enough till we get back. We can just get back to where Mom and Dad are. And he's going through this whole thing in his mind. Watch what happens. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. This is the father looking off into the horizon. He's looking off every day, every night, every morning, whatever it might be. Hey, we're going to go start our work day. Before we're going to have my coffee, I'm going to look off on the horizon and see if I see my son coming. It's the middle of the day. Hey, we're on lunch break. Everyone's good. I'm going to look off on the horizon and see if I see my son coming. It's in the evening now and the sun's starting to set. Before that sun sets down, is there any chance I might see that silhouette? See, because just like the son, the father also had a responsibility. And we don't get to hear his side of it, but I can tell you as a dad, you hate to see your kids hurt. You hate to see your kids make bad decisions. And you want them to understand that, listen, I'm here for you, and I want to help you, and yeah, I made poor decisions, and I'm not trying to keep you from those decisions. I'm trying to protect you from those same things that cause that hurt and pain. And so if you were the dad, hey, I've given you everything, and you broke ties completely with the family, and you've gone off and done your own, how many nights do you think he has stayed awake? Just looked at the ceiling going, man, was that really the response I should have had? I mean, couldn't I have brought in some of my friends and sat down and, listen, that guy made that same bad decision, and that guy made that same bad decision, and they share the struggles they had from it, and that we're all together here because we don't want you to make that bad decision? I guarantee you that dad went through that. You know why? Because he loves his son. And it's unconditional. And it never, ever stops, regardless of those decisions that they make. And every day, he has to hold on to that hope that he might see his son in the horizon. God looks at us every day. For those that are believers, we're going to go home with him one day. But for those that aren't, that have never stopped long enough to recognize God as their Heavenly Father, he looks off into the horizon and hopes that you'll make that decision to turn to him. While he was still a long way off, his father saw him, was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son. This would not happen in this culture. This is a rich man, he's got land, he has all these other kind of things. That doesn't happen. This dad doesn't care. He's going to knock people over, he's going to knock people down, he's going to run through his fields, he's going to step in bad things, he's going to fall, all those things could happen. He doesn't care. He has to get to his child because he loves him that much. It says, he ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. This is showing the compassion that he has for his son and how much he truly loves him. This is something that he felt by his reaction he is lost forever. And yet one day, there's his child. The son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. His response when he sees his son is to run to him. He didn't care what his culture said. I can see him far enough off. I don't want anything else to have the opportunity to hurt him in any way. I'm going to run to my child. I'm going to grab a hold of him. His son's response is this: I have screwed up so badly. I have messed it up like you couldn't even imagine, like I messed it up. And it's at this point that it's the father's responsibility. It's his response and his abilities to him. How would you respond? Yeah, you're right, you screwed it up. Hey, guess what? All that money you took, you got nothing left now. You were a screw up then, you're a screw up now. You squandered all that, it's been 6 weeks. What I saved for 60 years, you threw away in 6 weeks. He could have done all those things. But his response was this: but the father said to his servants, quick, bring me the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his fingers and sandals on his feet. We'll stop here. The first thing he does is he clothes him with what? The best robe. The best robe is set for some kind of event. If you look back in the Old Testament, when Jacob gives the robe to Joseph, he has this wonderful robe made for him. Not because Joseph was his youngest child, Benjamin was, but because he had Joseph way later in life and never expected to have kids again. And God blessed him with this child, so he made him a special robe and made everyone else jealous because of it. This moment when his son is coming back, this robe, the best robe, is going to be put on you. On top of it, we're going to give you a ring. When you put a ring on something, that shows that you have authority. It's a symbol. You have a wedding ring. It's a symbol. No beginning, no end. There's no start, no end to it. It's eternity, which is the same eternity we have through God's Son, Jesus Christ. It's a symbol for it. And there's also authority behind it. I'm married. A covenant that I made before God. I'm taken. You're taken. But it's also a place of authority for you to stop someone and say, hey. That's not going to happen. We're not going to have that discussion. We're not going to put ourselves in these areas. We're not going to linger extra long at the water cooler. No, we're not going to have lunch. No, we're not going to go to breakfast. No, we're not going to do any of those things. Because God gave you this authority to tell you no. And I'm going to stand up for that. And then on top of it, puts the sandals on his feet. What's the big deal there, right? Putting the sandals back on his feet said, this is my child, this is part of the family. Only the servants didn't wear shoes. I'm going to put this best robe with this ring, with these sandals on my child. And that's what God does to us. Now remember something. He was in a faraway land. He was working all hours. He's had to walk all the way back. He doesn't have any money. He's probably smelling pretty bad, smelling pretty right, needs to be cleaned up, all those things. He doesn't care because he's hit rock bottom. You know who else doesn't care? His father. Because it's his responsibility to take care of that child. And no matter how that child comes to him, he throws his arms around him, he pulls him close, he kisses him, he clothes him, he protects him, he feeds him. Because that's our responsibility. Yes, I had to put my professional golf career aside. Because a lot of us like to golf. Yes, I had to put my professional racing career aside. Because some of us love cars. Yes, I'm not going to be on the hunting channel. I don't know if that is a thing. The hunting channel. I had to put some of that aside. That's what fathers do. That's what fathers do. You know why? Because that is our responsibility. And in this world, we need to teach that responsibility. I had a visit this week, and it was with Lisa's dad, and her dad is 80. He's really funny. He'll say something and just kind of off the wall, and it just kind of makes you laugh. And he just has really good insight and stuff. And so I asked him, I said, hey, you're 80, and you've seen a lot because he was a police officer. What's changed in the family dynamic? What has changed? Because everything is just so different now. I mean, you didn't have all the stuff that we hear about today, even though probably some of it was going on, we just didn't have the internet, didn't know about it. But what's changed? And he said one word. He said responsibility. And he said, people no longer take responsibility. I won't hold you responsible, but I don't take responsibility. In other words, whatever the event is that God has brought me to, my response to that, tied to the abilities that God has given me to respond to that. Someone's having a bad day, do I stop long enough to listen? Someone's really angry, to try to diffuse it. Someone wants to have their way, to just try to calm them down, whatever it might be. But especially from the family dynamic of, that's my child, and I'm going to take responsibility for it, which means I'm going to put other things aside as I raise them. And anybody here over the age of 70 will tell you, you never stop being a parent. My response and my ability to that response. Watch what the Father says next. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. So what Paul shared with me was this, is that I'm going to take responsibility as opposed to holding you responsible. That's my choice. That's my responsibility. This father didn't say, you know what, you're going to go out and work for a while in the fields. You're going to make however many dollars, and then when you get to that point, we're going to start you a savings account. We're going to get you all squared away. You're not going to eat the same food everyone else. We'll get you a sandwich for now, but you're going to go out and work first. See, that's what the guys did in the other country. He brought the fattened calf, and that calf is set aside for the greatest of all guests. In his mind, it's like the king has just arrived. The emperor has just come in. His son has finally come home. And his response was this: let's have a feast and celebrate. Why? For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. So they began to celebrate. The next word is meanwhile. That's for next week. Because there's another character within this story. But from right now, where is it that you sit that you have to take responsibility? And we have to every single day. As we're heading out from this basketball tournament thing, My friend's like, she goes, I couldn't do it. So here earlier, her husband had to come like save her because she'd taken the windows out and the thing started flopping around. So he had to stop what he was doing. He took responsibility, went and came in and got it so that they put the thing back together. But now we're taking the top off, right? It's a Jeep and it has the ability. Let's do it, right? So she's like, I can't really get the top part off the right way. And then she says this, but I feel like you're a guy and you should be able to do this. And so now it's like, that's right, I'm a guy. I should be able to do this. And I don't know what I'm doing. But I can't let her see that I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't know what I'm doing. So she walks out, and thankfully I kind of watched her first, and it was just taking the top part off, and you take all these zippers down, and everything goes to a certain spot and all that, and we get the thing halfway down, and it gets stuck. And she's like pulling on, and all of a sudden, my inner mechanical guyhood stepped in, because I saw that there was a little bar that it was banging on, and I said, in my guy voice, hold on a second there, young lady. And pulled the thing back up, and then we pushed it down and pushed it over, and it went back. And I'm like, I am driving a Jeep home as a convertible. And I am so excited. Now, here's what happened. Those three girls that wanted to ride the air conditioning on the way over, they don't want to ride it when the top is up. All of a sudden, the top comes down, and now guess who wants to ride with the guy driving the big, cool Jeep? This is the coolest car I'm driving on the expressway. And I should be on there on my own, right, driving it? They're like, we're riding with him. And I'm like, okay, let's go. Let's do this. And so as we're driving along, I look and like, I kind of want to see, well, I don't really know much about a Jeep Wrangler and how fast they go, all that kind of stuff. And I'm starting to drive it, and all of a sudden I realize, listen, man, you got three girls in here who are singing songs as loud as they can. The hair is, they're whipping around, so they have like this Jeep hair. And if you don't know what Jeep hair is, it's like, put a pineapple on your head, and then string hair out from it. I mean, it's just crazy, flying all over the place, and one girl's hair is at the other one in the face, they're trying to keep it outside. They're just having a great old time. But they're my responsibility. And so I drove the speed limit all the way home. I know, am I responsible or what? Not just because they're in there, but I would enjoy it as long as I could. And it was fun to do. Your responsibility can change at any time. Your response with your abilities can change at any time. You don't know when God is going to bring something or someone to you for you to respond with the gifts that He has blessed you with. As believers, as sons and daughters of God, our Heavenly Father looks for those moments. He says this, I'll provide for each one of you. Your response is yours. Your abilities, I gave you. When those two come together, when those two collide, you can't help but see God's hand in it. Now, right where you sit, I just want you to bow your heads and close your eyes for a moment. The praise team is going to come up. We're going to go into part 2 of this next week. But this last part, Rick, if you make sure you take this last part, please, for me. The Son's response, he had 2 responses to the Father. His first response was, give me, give me, give me, give me, give me. His second response was, how can I serve? His responses were different, but his abilities hadn't changed. His resources may have, but his abilities hadn't changed. And so where you are today as a husband, a wife, a coach, a mentor, a friend, a boss, a mom, a dad, grandma, grandfather, even with the losses you've had and the struggles you've had, and maybe even some of the things that you're doing right now, that you know you're not responding to God. You're responding to yourself. Ask yourself, in those moments, what will your response be? Give me mine, give me, give me, give me. How is it that I can serve? Because either way, you have a Father in heaven that loves you. And on this Father's Day, He's waiting for you to come across that horizon so He can fill you and give you everything you need to use those abilities that He's blessed you with. You have to decide from the standpoint of your responsibility. Heavenly Father God, thank you for the story of the prodigal son, even though that's a term that we give it. God, what areas are we just kind of wasting away in? We're just taking it day by day, we're not recognizing you. Where is it, Lord, that we're squandering time, we're squandering resources, we're not recognizing the loved ones around us, we're not recognizing just how much you've given to each one of us and blessed us with. God, on this Father's Day, would you help us to recognize you? Would you help us to see you in each and every moment? Those dads that are here, God, help them to walk out with that grace, knowing that you bless them with a miracle, each one of their children. Help them grab a hold of them. Help them enjoy the time, the day that they have. Lord, help them most to respond to your love. God, for each of us, God, would you teach us, would you show us every day how we can take responsibility with the gifts that you blessed us with every moment and every person we come in contact with. Lord, we love you. In your name we pray. Amen. Y'all, please